Ms. Merrill, I'm looking at an article you wrote in The Breach in 2017. You said, I'm going to quote, "It's inconsistent to denounce white supremacy but not repudiate voter ID laws." Did you say that?
Thank you for the questions, Senator.
You're welcome.
I believe that was an interview I gave in the days after Charlottesville,
Right.
and I believe those statements were it was in my role as an advocate regarding my work representing voters in Alabama challenging.
So you didn't mean them as a person?
I made them in my role as an
Do
advocate.
you mean them as a person? I'm not asking you in your role as an advocate. Do you believe that if you're against white supremacy, you have to be against voter ID laws?
Senator, in my role as an advocate, I have.
Ma'am, I'm not asking you about this. It wasn't the case. I'm asking you what you believe, and I don't appreciate you dodging my question. Now, this is a serious position you've been nominated for. Do you believe that someone who is against white supremacy also has to be against voter ID laws?
Senator, no. The Supreme Court has held that photo
What do
ID
you
law.
believe?
I believe that the Supreme Court has held
What
that.
do you believe personally?
I believe that photo ID laws have been held to be constitutional.
Do you think voter ID laws are appropriate or inappropriate?
I believe those are questions that election officials.
Do you believe that voter ID laws are appropriate or inappropriate?
I believe that photo ID laws have been held to be constitutional. I believe there are cases in which
What
they
do
are.
you believe?
I believe there are cases in which they are
What do
appropriate.
you believe?
I also believe there are cases
What do you
in
believe?
which they can.
What do you believe? Do you
Senator,
believe?
let her answer, please.
I'm trying to. We both know what's
Needs
going on,
to-
Mr. Chairman.
Let her complete the
Why,
sentence.
well, let me do my own questioning, Mr. Chairman. I appreciate your help, Professor. Do you believe that voter IDs laws are appropriate or not?
I believe there are circumstances where photo ID laws can be constitutionally implemented. And I believe that the Supreme Court has also held that there are circumstances when they would not be constitutionally permitted.
Okay. All right, Ms. Ms. Chaudhry. Am I saying your name right?
It is Chaudhry.
Chaudhry. Thank you for correcting me.
Thank you.
In 2015, you were on a panel at Princeton University. You said that the killing of unarmed black men by police happens every day in America. Did you say that?
Senator, I don't recall a statement, but it is something I may have said in that context.
You think it happens every single day?
Senator, I believe in that statement, I was making a comment in my role as an advocate, and I was engaging in rhetorical advocacy, which
But do you
advocates
believe
do.
that police officers kill unarmed black men every day in America?
Senator, I believe the killing of unarmed citizens by law enforcement is tragic, and I believe in that
I
instance
think it's tragic too, but do you believe, this is a really simple question, Counselor, do you believe that cops kill unarmed black men in America every single day? You said it at Princeton.
Senator, I said it in my role as an advocate.
Oh, okay, you didn't mean it.
Senator, I said it in my role as an advocate to make a rhetorical point.
So when you say something that's incorrect, it's okay to excuse it by saying, oh, I was being an advocate? What do you believe? Do you personally believe that cops kill unarmed black men every single day in America?
Senator, I believe law enforcement have an important and challenging job in this country.
That's not what you said, though, Counselor.
Senator, I say before you here today that I do believe law enforcement have a difficult and challenging job, and I also understand the difference
I just think that's an extraordinary statement to make with no data to back up. None whatsoever. There's no basis for you saying that. And you knew it then and you know it now. How can one possibly believe that you're going to be unbiased on the federal bench?
Senator, I believe my record shows that I have worked collaboratively with law enforcement in Boston, Chicago, Mississippi, and Milwaukee to solve complex problems to promote constitutional, effective, and safe
Your record
policing.
shows that you believe cops are guilty until proven innocent. Your record shows that if a cop, if a cop shoots a criminal, it's the cop's fault. And if a criminal shoots a cop, it's the gun's fault. I've read your record. I've read your record, Ms. Merle, and I don't appreciate you not answering the question straight up. I would respect you a lot more if you'd just tell us what you believe and not try to hide it. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Judge, Ms. Abudu, congratulations. I want to just talk to you, at least initially, a little bit about the law. Ms. Abudu, what's the adequate and independent state grounds doctrine?
Thank you, Senator Kennedy.
You're welcome.
In my practice, I actually haven't had an opportunity to use that principle or doctrine, but my general understanding is that it speaks to the fact that if a federal court is able to resolve an issue based on state law grounds, then that is what should lead in terms of the court's ultimate decision.
Okay. What is the selective incorporation doctrine?
That also, in the voting rights or civil rights context, is a term that I haven't had to come across. But what I do know is that as a legal research and writer, and for sure confronting possibly new areas of law, I look very forward to doing my due diligence in terms of making sure I'm familiar with doctrines such as that one.
Do you know what it is?
So no, I'm not familiar with it sitting here today.
Selective incorporation doctrine? Okay. Well, you're going to see a lot of it if you're confirmed on the 11th Circuit. Can Congress pass any law that the Constitution doesn't prohibit?
Based on the frame of your question, I would say yes, that sounds right.
So you think Congress has plenary power?
Well, I would first look to what the Supreme Court has said in terms of following precedent.
No, but I'm interested, if I could, Counselor, in your opinion, does the United States Congress have delegated powers or plenary power?
Well, the Congress has both, I would say, from my general understanding. Again, it depends on the context and the issue, but it is.
Can you explain the difference to me between strict scrutiny and intermediate scrutiny?
Senator, strict scrutiny is the highest level of scrutiny that's often applied in constitutional cases.
What's the definition? I'm sorry, go ahead. Excuse me.
So it requires that a state, when enacting a law or regulation, have a compelling governmental interest for doing so, and that the law is narrowly tailored to achieve that interest.
Okay.
And then intermediate, did you say?
Yeah.
Okay,
yeah.
so intermediate speaks to the issue of having a substantial interest or an important governmental interest that is substantially related.
Okay. Do you believe that the meaning of the Constitution is immutable, or does it change over time?
Senator, I would say that the Supreme Court in some cases has analyzed that issue, and the response really does depend on the context and the issue. But what the court does or has done in its approach, of course, is look to the plain meaning of a statute or of the Constitution, because that really is where the inquiry should start. And if the language is plain, then that is where the inquiry can end.
Okay, thank you for that. You were involved in a 2021 report from the Southern Poverty Law Center about voting in Louisiana. Did you say, quote, racist white Southerners, close quote, and, quote, hostile white voters and governmental officials in Louisiana continue to make local polling places and early voting locations threatening spaces for black voters? Did you say that?
Senator, I do not believe that I said that. I haven't read that publication in some
Will you help
time.
write it?
I helped to draft the publication and approved it, but I'm not familiar with that
Oh,
language.
you don't, okay. In that same report, did you say, well, tell me where in Louisiana local polling places and early voting locations are threatening African-American voters? You said it, so which polling places?
So again, Senator, obviously I don't have that report in front of me to be able to read and remind myself of the examples that might have been shared. But what I can say is that Louisiana.
Let me cut you off because I'm going to run out of time, Counselor. Let me ask you one more. In August 2021, we're not talking 20 years ago, we're talking 2021, you were involved in another report by the SPLC, and you said that voter identification, photo ID to vote, is burdensome and does not serve any legitimate state interest. Do you really believe that?
Senator, identification for voting is
Yes,
something.
but first, do you really believe that? You said it. You meant it?
The Supreme Court in Crawford v. Marion County has already upheld voter ID laws as per se
Yeah, but you said it
constitutional.
didn't serve any legitimate state interest. Do you believe that?
Again, Senator, without that language in front of me, it's hard to understand
You
the
said
context.
it. Here it is, August 2021.
Well, there are
I'm
cases.
just asking you to explain to me why having to prove you are who you say you are before you vote doesn't serve, you said it doesn't serve any legitimate state interest. I'm just asking to explain that statement to me.
I understand, Senator Kennedy, and again, without being able to see the language that appears before and after, it's hard for the context.
You deny that you said it?
I can't say that I haven't seen that language in front of me, but what I do know is that there have been voter ID cases in which courts have found
Yeah, but
that
I know, I'm familiar with the case law, but I'm asking what you think, because you may be on the 11th Circuit. Do you believe that voter ID is inappropriate?
my commitment is to uphold the Supreme Court's decision in Crawford v. Marion
I know, but
County.
here you said it was inappropriate. You deny that?
Well, again,
Saying it?
Senator, it would be helpful to know if that section of the report also cites to cases in which federal courts have found that certain voter ID laws do pose an burden on voters.
Thank you, Senator Kennedy.